Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome back to our watch club for Marvel's Secret Invasion. Let's finish this. Welcome back to Watch Club. My name is Nate, and this is our watch club for Marvel's Secret Invasion, Episode 5, titled Harvest, directed by Ali Selim. If you're joining us for the first time, this is Watch Club, our weekly review series, kind of like a book club, but trust me, it's way better. Keep in mind, we will be going into full spoilers for this series and the MCU in general, so if you haven't watched this week's episode yet, be sure to do so, and then come right back in a snap. Now, before we go any further, we do want to remind you listening that we here at Geekcentric support the Writers Guild of America and the Screen Actors Guild and American Federation of Television and Radio Arts as they strike to get the contract they deserve. Without incredible writers and actors, we wouldn't be getting all these incredible stories that we love so much that help us to escape into fantastic worlds or give us, heartfelt moments that provide us perspective about the people around us or even mirrors into our own reality that allow us to look inward and reflect on how we can collectively do better. And that's what the WGA and SAG-AFTRA are looking for, studios to do better by them so they can keep making these stories that we love while supporting their families. So if you want to support the actors and writers of the things that we love, you can do so by checking out the links in our show notes. Now, before Gravik gets too upset, let me introduce you to my fellow Skrull joining me today, beaming down once again from way up high. We have a Donald, a Dudley, a certified doctor, a Dapper Dan, a Dale, a Dexter, and always a delightful young man. He's Darcy the Green-loving Hudson.
When you say Dexter, I immediately go to Dexter's Laboratories.
That's what I was hoping for.
Who's this murdering serial killer guy? I don't know anything about that.
No, don't worry
Give me the mad little scientist.
Yeah, little tiny scientist. Does he have an accent? Does he not have an accent? We were talking about that in the car on our way to Oppenheimer. But yeah, speaking of scientists and Oppenheimer, Barbenheimer weekend is upon us as we record this, and so we're coming out a little bit later than we would have wanted to. We just got a little bit tied up in the Barbenheimer festivities, but yeah, no, definitely check out our Oppenheimer review, and I'm hoping at some point we'll get to talk about Barbie. I'm sure we'll definitely.
I'm sure we will. Yes,
be talking about it at some point.
With the Hockey Summer coming to a close, you got me calling it now. I'm finally on board at the end of it.
There,
but
dude.
I'm sure we'll look back on something we maybe didn't get a chance to go out and see early.
Very good. Yes, definitely. But listen, Darcy, this show takes place a lot in London. London, England, by the way. And that not London, Ontario. That reminded me of when we went to London this past April for Star Wars Celebration. And it got me wondering, if you could harvest any of the DNA, I think the question of if you could have a superpower, come on, we've done that a million times. But if you could harvest the DNA of any superpowered individual to specifically make a cross-Europe trip more enjoyable, whose DNA juice would you suck down?
I have two answers, because one is, of course, an MCU-based hero, and one is someone who has not yet graced the presence of the MCU, but has been in a movie. And
I'm ready.
So first off, I'd definitely go Quicksilver. I mean, super
Ooh.
speed to me means traveling is done in a flash or over in a second. So
Yeah.
that I feel like would cut out a lot of time and some of the down parts of traveling through Europe. Or, of course, going an even easier route, I'd say Nightcrawler. Let me teleport around this place. There we go.
Yeah, I think Nightcrawler is a pretty, sort of, that's my pick for whenever anyone asks, what do you want your superpower? If you had a superpower, what would it be? I think, teleporting, duh. I think Nightcrawler, I actually like that answer more than Quicksilver because I don't like to run. And so I feel like even though it's super speed, you still have to, exert yourself quite a bit.
Yes, but also you have a higher metabolism. I mean, you can eat all the delicious foods across Europe too, and then not even have to worry about that. That's almost just fuel for your trip. Do
you know how much stroopwafel that would be in Denmark? Yeah, I think for myself, I was going to say Nightcrawler, but I kind of also enjoy the commuting part of traveling across Europe. I think the train
system is wonderful over there.
Really
it's
wonderful.
nice going through the countrysides, I will say.
So I think for myself, what I didn't enjoy about Europe was just how damn expensive everything was, and how, like, we would see a price, and I remember, Darcy, I would be like, oh, $100, that's not bad. And you're like, Nate,
Yeah. That's
100
euro.
euros. Okay. Remember, there's a difference. There's a big difference. And so I think for myself, I would take, and he has graced the screen within our MCU. I would take Professor X's DNA for mind manipulation, and I would just Jedi mind trick all the people. Like, if we go to the Lego store and get an exclusive set or something, I just like, I've already paid for this, and they're like, you've already paid for this, and they just give me a bunch of free stuff.
But then you wouldn't get the Lego points, man.
No, you know what? I could convince them to get me, put it somehow onto my account. I don't know. I think I would just sort of make everyone, give me free stuff, and if I was feeling generous, maybe it would be a greatly reduced price, because sometimes, you're traveling across Europe. If it was like a street vendor or something like that, I would want to, support them. But I was thinking, if, and this is something I wouldn't even have to steal DNA for, but I think we've talked about this before, is I would use that now Professor X power to convince Hank Pym, to give me some Pym particles so we could shrink down our purchases and fit them.
Oh, that would be ideal.
You know what I mean?
That'd be
Imagine even your suitcase is just in your pocket on your keychain.
Yeah.
Come on.
Again, that's not DNA though. I mean, you couldn't even steal that power. You'd have to be friends with Hank Pym and go on the mind route,
or just go into his mind and melt it. And I don't know. Anyways, before we get attacked and get a plastic bag put over our head, causing us to reveal our true form, let's get into this episode. We kick right into the hospital as we see Nick Fury attempting to tell an unconscious President Ritson to not trust Colonel Rhodes. And I'm like, dude, he can't hear you. He's completely unconscious. But, whatever. He's stopped by a nurse telling him he doesn't have clearance to follow them. Kudos to that nurse, by the way, for going up to Samuel L. Jackson and saying, you don't have clearance. And his face when he does it, he's like, oh, like he looked like such like a, I don't know, like that, like a really upset teenager or something like that. I'm like, he's just very frustrated. And so he grabs a seat and he sits down with his gun. And he's just like sort of sitting there blocking the entrance, which
very close to the doors, like way too close. It's one thing to sit and guard them, but like if those doors open, he's getting hit by them.
I was gonna say, I mean, he's not there's got to be other patients that need to access, go through that door.
You'd think. I mean, it's a hospital. They're usually pretty busy places.
Right. It's not just the president's hospital. But one thing to note, we do see in the background, they are reporting on the attack on the president. And there's like a ticker that says that aliens helped save the president, which I think is great for Skrull human relations. Like, oh, these aliens, they're like, but at first I was kind of thinking like, this is going to be huge news for the public because they're like, aliens exist. But then I started thinking, I'm like, no. Aliens have been a part of the MCU for years now.
Yeah.
That's not a new thing. So for the people within the MCU, it's probably just another Tuesday.
Yeah, I think so for sure. What I find interesting is the fact that ticker says they helped save, because later on you can see Gravik trying to almost cover that up, and it just seems weird. It's like there's already people believing that they helped save, so why are you all of a sudden going to try and flip the table saying they were against him now?
Right.
It was very odd for him to make that decision if it's already public knowledge that they helped.
Right. They would have had control over what was said in that situation, right? You would imagine.
Maybe they don't have the news waves in Europe. It's only in America that they have a newscaster on the council. I don't know about that.
Maybe? I don't know.
They couldn't get the president, so they went to the newscaster. Everywhere else, they have the higher ups, so they don't have to worry about the news.
There's a few things in this episode, and we'll talk about them that are just like something changed in the writing. Something got mixed up or messed up, or they had to scale back. Maybe this series was supposed to be longer. I remember, shout out to our friends at the Movie Podcast who also, like our own Justin, interviewed Kingsley Ben-Adir, and he said that his favorite episodes were, I think he said 3 and 7. And there's only 6 episodes of this series. So, but he's like, oh, I meant 6. I meant 6. So between some of the stuff that happens in this episode and that comment alone, I'm just, anyways, we'll talk about
that. Yeah.
We'll talk about it.
Weird.
So we then jump back to New Skrullos, the New Skrullos compound, where we see Pagan, Gravik, Beto, and the woman from previous episodes that just keeps getting focused on, getting out of a car. And Gravik asks them to assemble the operatives, and they all meet up with Gravik addressing them. Pagan tells G, I love how he's like, "Yo, what's up, G?" That he should be proud of Gravik, that he should be proud. But Gravik rebukes his statement by reminding him that the president is still alive. Pagan says Fury never trusted you and starts to doubt Gravik, but just as he does, Gravik stabs through Pagan using his Flora Colossi powers, and he reminds him that none of the other Skrulls have a face. They don't have a name. They do as he says. And he commands that woman that, again, they keep focusing on to send their people out to Vara's house to kill her, to get the job done. Beto looks at Gravik a little longer and leaves. And he's kind of all like frustrated and upset, obviously. And as he does, Gravik tells Rava, as Rhodes, to inform the president of the Skrulls living in Russia to coerce him to have the U.S. military attack. He explains that this will be used as leverage for Fury, as Fury doesn't want to see, both World War III or innocent Skrulls dead. So, Darcy, Pagan is dead, and Gravik has gone full cult leader at this moment in time. We see that Gravik is just as frustrated with the outcome of last week's episode as we were. But here we see he's gotten, sloppy. What do you think about Pagan's death and Gravik's sort of shift in the plan?
I mean, I feel like Pagan was kind of an unceremonious death for the character. It felt like they were building up to have him have a confrontation with Gravik, and this is certainly not how I was expecting it to end. And that question of were there more episodes now leads me to wonder, like, maybe we would have seen more of this confrontation in an earlier episode that they just decided to scrap or just leave on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, because it does feel quick. I mean, I get that he would be mad at him for what happened with when he was on the ship or whatever, and he just sort of sent them into that mission knowing that it wasn't actually happening with the whole missile thing. But I don't know. I feel like you're right. I feel like there could have been maybe a little more of a build up to lead to this sort of pop, if you will.
Yeah, for sure. Because it doesn't have that satisfying, like, this was the final straw or whatever. This just kind of seemed to be the last straw of the only one. I mean, there was a bit of dissent earlier on, but we saw Pagan as very, he was very faithful in his following of Gravik and thought he was doing the right thing. And we didn't even really get to see that faith unwind at all to lead to this, outburst or whatever. I think Gravik's losing it, honestly. Again, the fact that he's scrambling now and trying to frame these Skrulls after, again, that little ticker tape saying they helped. It's like, so the public already knows that they helped, and now you're going to try and say the other. Like, who are they going to believe? Like, that just seems like a weird thing to go now.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it feels like he doesn't really even care about his own mission. Like, it just feels like he just wants to kill and he wants
to be stronger and will do anything to get that power.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate because, again, I think one of my favorite aspects to maybe how we initially saw Gravik and to some of the better villains in the MCU is when we can sort of be on their side. Mm-hmm. We can see their perspective and understand that. And I think that's where this series was definitely starting. And again, seeing him as a kid and he lost his parents and all this stuff, I do think that I think this whole back half of the season or this series does feel a little undercooked, if you will, and I think that might be what's sort of leading to this sort of really quick shift in the characters. I will say I do have a Skrull secret for this moment, but I'm going to hold it to the end of the episode.
Okay.
Involving a character that I did mention in that last description, but I also want to mention this is the first time that I really noticed Pagan's Irish accent, especially when he says the harvest. I was really, between the Australian Talos and an Irish accent. It's kind of nice to see that the MCU's not just relying on, like most of the time in movies, it's like everyone's British. Just every single person is
it's
British.
all from one location. But at least this one seems that they're kind of shifting it up a bit, bringing it from around the world.
Which is nice. Yeah. Cool. Let's keep going here. We then see Rava as Rhodey being an absolute dick to that nurse, like just like horrible, like where's the president? Over here. You're like they're just letting this information go to anyone. It's like, no, she's trying to help. Like, anyways, she enters the hospital and she's accosted immediately by Fury as he holds her at gunpoint and says she must be out of her Skrull ass mind. I love that line. If she thinks that he's going to let her get anywhere near the president. Rava tells Fury that in 60 seconds, the footage of him killing Maria Hill is going to play on every news outlet. And Fury tells Rava to tell Gravik he's coming for him. And she responds with, tell him yourself. So, I think one of the weird things that sort of stuck out to me in this moment was, why do you think the footage of Fury killing Maria Hill would upset so many people? Like, is Fury well known enough throughout the MCU outside of the Avengers that like people would be upset? Because when I think of a band, like I would think of the Avengers. Like, I guess you could look at the sports analogy of like, well, people that follow sports know the coaches of the teams.
Oh, it's like the manager of the band, or
right?
Like
yeah,
that,
and like I don't think of the manager of the band. No. So like, would people who love Hawkeye and Captain America and Black Widow, would they really think of Nick Fury?
See, the thing is the fact that he works for the government and like works specifically in like the secret ops department or like area.
Yeah,
I feel like him being known would kind of go against his whole job description.
Right.
And I feel like the same would relate for Maria Hill. So if anything, that I feel like most of the people will be like, oh, that's just some guy shooting a lady in Russia. Okay.
I don't understand why it would be like, I think the only thing, I guess it's just, I think the only thing that I could think of would be that Fury might, I guess, be worried that some of the Avengers who knew Maria Hill might try to confront him about it if they were to see something like that. But
maybe
I don't know.
It feels like more it was going for like, you're going to be public enemy number one. And it's like, I don't get that because no one should know who he is.
Right.
He's a spy. That's kind of his whole like MO. So
yeah, it seems weird. And like nobody should know who Maria Hill was.
A very odd threat.
Really, really strange. But I mean, I guess like, again, I think if anything, it's Rava getting into to Fury's head, right? It's
sure.
Trying to say like, this is a horrible thing. People are going to think you're horrible. If they see you on the street, they think you're a killer or whatever. But I will say, regardless, Don Cheadle's performance as Rava is still phenomenal. I love the line, so TikTok, Nick. And just the emphasis on Nick. And it's just a wonderful Nick slip, but it's purposeful at this time just to dig even further into his hatred of people who, aren't his wife calling him Nick. So I thought that was great.
Mm-hmm.
So then we get to see a scene that I absolutely love, mostly because Olivia Colman is in it. And we jump over to London to see SIS director Derek Weatherby watching the news of the attack on President Ritson and how Talos was involved. And even though he tells his assistant to send Sonya away, she enters his office anyways and holds a gun up to his head, demanding he tells her the location of Dr. Rosa Dalton. After he asks her if she's lost her mind, she shoots him in the leg through his hand in order to reveal his true colors. She reminds him that the SIS has no official policy on killing Skrulls, but that she does have a personal preference, and that if he wants to find out what that is, or if he doesn't want to find out what that is, he should start talking. So a big reveal here that she's been working for a Skrull leading the SIS this entire time. We saw this face back in episode 1, and again, what a delightfully terrifying woman Sonya Falsworth is. What did you think of this moment between Sonya and the director?
I loved it. Again, she's one of the best parts of this show. Every scene she's in, she's just delightfully horrifying in all the right ways. You are afraid of her, but want to watch more of her no matter what. What I thought was interesting was the fact that this Skrull clearly maybe wasn't a battle, like a warrior. He was more just this politician or something like that, because you think a warrior Skrull would have the wherewithal within them to be like, oh, I'm not going to shift my hand because of a little pain. Like I can keep my the shell on.
Okay.
Just the one hand slipping was just like, okay, that seems a bit weird to be like, oh, look at that. Maybe if she cut off his hand, I'd understand it turning back to a Skrull hand, but I don't know, just the shot that was where it's like, okay, you're again losing, kind of inconsistent with what caused them to turn.
Well, I think the Skrull, and I'm forgetting his name now, but in episode 2, when she cuts the finger off, like it's not like the rest of his arm starts to
exactly
change.
It's just what fell off that goes back.
He's clearly a warrior. Where you're right, this guy, this Skrull, whoever it is that's portraying Derek Weatherby, director of the SIS, you can tell that even in his human skin, he probably hasn't really had to do too much as leader of the SIS. He's directing people, hence the job title. But dude, when she blasts him in the leg, like I was just floored. The look on her face, she's smiling as she does it, and not worried for one moment that she's wrong. Like not even a doubt in her mind. And I was sitting there, I'm like, how did she know he was a Skrull? Like how long has he actually been a Skrull? Was he a Skrull? Was he a Skrull this entire time, or was he maybe recently, shifted out? Or I don't know. I think the other thing that this still doesn't rule out is that she herself isn't a Skrull, because we learn at the end of the episode that she does take over as head of the SIS. She takes his job. So maybe that was part of her plan to sort of take over that position. And this was like a convenient way to kind of add that to the plan to find the Daltons.
I don't know. I don't think we're going to see any Skrull infighting outside of, Vara and Gaia going forward, because we haven't been introduced to anyone else who really is on their side. I feel like for the most part, it will, like, anyone following Gravik believes in Gravik to a certain extent, of course, as we'll get to it later on.
Yeah, no, I think it's I don't know. I still just, there's so many moments in this episode where there's like it's like really obvious hints, so it's like maybe it's too obvious, but like later in the episode she says like I can be whatever you want me to be and all this stuff, and like near the end she's like anyone could be a Skrull or something, and I'm just like maybe, but I don't know. I think it would be fun regardless of whether she is or isn't. But and then the CUV news station is the same news outlet that we saw in a previous Disney Plus series in WandaVision, actually, in the Sword HQ, which I thought was kind of a neat little tidbit. Back at the compound, Beto confronts Gravik, saying he's a little confused as to why Gravik killed Pagan. And I thought this was like brutal, because he's like starting to address it, but then he's just like, oh, I got a phone call, and he just like stands up and walks by Beto and just takes the call from Rava, confirming Rava confirms she'll handle the president, who's now awake and out of surgery, and as soon as the call ends, Gravik gets hit in the back with a sledgehammer and attacked by Beto, Xerxu, and a few other Skrulls. They try to stab him and suffocate him, and in the struggle, he reveals his true Skrull form for the first time in this series, or at least his true adult Skrull form, because we did see him when he was a kid. He manages to fight them off with his Groot arm. He stabs Xerxu in the neck, and then in front of everyone, he slices Beto's throat. So, craziness. What did you think of seeing Gravik for the first time in his adult Skrull form, and how do you think he's going to keep the loyalty of his people?
I mean, knew he was a Skrull, so it wasn't really surprising to see his Skrull form. I got to say, seeing his ruthlessness, I think it was more like he was very close to dying there, being choked out by the bag, and he just needed to focus on surviving and couldn't hold that shell form or anything like that. So, I mean, ruthless fighting from him. He is a force to be reckoned with all these powers. So it's going to be interesting to see how they manage to take him down or subdue him in the finale, because clearly he has an upper hand against anyone who he fights. So.
Well, this is the thing. I'm like, I agree with you. I think though, like 5 regular skulls, skulls, 5 regular Skrulls, I think, on one Super Skrull, and like they made him bleed. Like we see drips of purple blood on the inside of the bag, which was horrific. Like he must have been coughing up blood from that impact with the sledgehammer. But I'm wondering if in the finale we see the Skrull people come to Fury's aid, right? Even though he never kept his promise, they still sort of are the better people and are still grateful for the attempt, because this feels like it's leading up to this like one-on-one fight. And I'm just like, Fury, you were limping at the beginning of the series. How the
That's why I feel like the one-on-one fight might be between Gaia and Gravik.
Oh.
Because Gaia is the only one who also has these powers that
Right.
we've seen. So she's really the only one who could stand a chance against him. That's my thoughts, at least.
Interesting. I mean, yeah, again, we'll have to see, like, the only thing that I could see happen, like, if Gravik can find a way to convince the other Skrulls to be like, hey, I'm going to give you a little more power, but you have to be with me. I don't
think he trusts anyone enough to do that. He's like Fury, where he doesn't trust anyone except himself, type thing. So
yeah, and and the only other thing I will say is he did the Skrull. What are they called? The Council. Where did that plot line go?
Yeah, they just like, okay, I'll give you powers, and then they just dip. And it's like, okay, did they get powers?
If they're back in the new, maybe I don't know. We'll see. Maybe that's how they continue on after Gravik dies. Maybe some of those characters are going to go on to be Super Skrulls in the MCU, but we'll have to wait and see. So then we see Fury sneaking into the Brixton Community Center that we saw in episode 2, and Gaia confronts him, and he explains why he chose that location specifically as a safe house for the Skrulls. And as he begins to explain why Talos died and the path he chose, Gaia interrupts him, saying he died and nothing will come of it. Fury mentions that Talos told him how she survived her execution and asked what DNA Gravik actually stole. She mentions the samples that we knew of and says that he only took those because he couldn't find what he was actually looking for, something called the harvest. And Gaia requests to bury her father, and Fury recommends that she meets with Priscilla, Vara, his wife, and as he hears police sirens, he leaves for Finland. So there was a sequence in the trailer, and I think we've even talked about this in previous episodes of this Watch Club, where we do see Gaia crying over a body, which we assumed would have been Talos' body based on the location that it's in, and then we got confirmation that was the exact location. But we don't. That sequence never happens. So, why do you think they cut that sequence out? And do you think, do you think this was a better way to have sort of cleaned up this plot line?
I mean, I feel like we could have seen that scene still, because that would answer how Gaia got the body, because that is another big question that's kind of raised by that, because we saw a bunch of cops coming to the scene at the end of the last episode. So
coming to arrest Fury for murdering someone they don't know who it is. Like, I don't know. Yeah,
it was very weird way that they ended off that last episode to not show us how that body was recovered or anything like that, to lead into the scene with Gaia. So I thought it was odd. Just very, again, a lot of odd things happening in this episode. I don't know how many times I've said it, but it's been a lot.
No, and like not odd good, right? Like not odd good. I think this scene was whack. Like at one point, Fury just says, like, Talos told me how you survived your execution. When? At what point in time did that happen, right? Like, when did he learn that Gaia had Extremis? Because the last time they talked, they had a big fight, and she even says in this episode, the last thing I said to him was I can't quite remember the exact line, but it wasn't hey, Dad, I got Extremis powers. Unless she mentioned it to him, like, what? I try to even think of when that would have happened.
I couldn't tell you, because again, they don't give you enough of a timeline where those characters could have interacted before that scene on the bench, unless she told them over a text, which seems like the last way you tell something of that, like, how much meaning or impact that revelation will have. Be like, oh, by the way, I had to take Extremis because he shot me as I was leaving. It's just like,
what does that even mean?
That's not a text. That's a conversation you have face to face that we were missing, and it's odd.
No, it's super. It's just felt really messy, and I think that this episode may have sort of given us like a very clear indication of the fact that there definitely were cuts to the story, and and that there were big changes that had to be made to this season. And so, on one side, I look at sort of our critiques of the previous few episodes and probably this one, and sort of look at it as well, maybe we're a little bit harsh because they were trying to do their best with maybe a decision that wasn't within their control. Oftentimes it has a lot to do with, sort of studios or I know this was filmed and probably some of it was produced during COVID. So, I'm sure that there was something that was, or there were a lot of things that were out of their control. but I don't know. I think they're the critique is how they addressed it, and I don't think they did it a great job.
No, not really.
So then we see Sonya sitting in a lab owned by the Daltons, and as they walk in, Sonya confronts them with a lovely "Hello, Skrulls," and I love that moment because they're just like, "What the fuck is it?" And as she has her special forces team hold them at gunpoint, she questions Dr. Rosa Dalton about the machine Gravik was using to transform himself into a Super Skrull. As SIS team members carry out totes full of research out of the lab, Sonya informs the Daltons that she's going to have the place torched. Frustrated by this, the male Skrull impersonating, I think, Mr. Dalton, breaks his handcuffs and holds Rosa at gunpoint, saying he'll kill her if Sonya doesn't let them go. Sonya quips about the males in her species as well, and before she fires a single bullet into his Skrull head. So this series, I think, has to be the most violent we've seen an MCU Disney Plus series, at least. What did you think of this purple blood-soaked end for Mr. Dalton?
Again, just reinforcing how much I love this character. Sonya is amazing,
Yeah.
and I want her in every MCU project going forward. Move over Nick Fury.
Ooh.
Hello, Sonya.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. She is incredible, and she steals every scene. I love just the way she handles the situation, walking in there, knowing she's going to, come out with the upper hand because she's got the team place surrounded, even though they weren't the quickest on the uptake for that. Like, just every scene she's in is a win for me. So more of her would be great. And just, I think the way that it kind of goes to show that not all the Skrulls are the diehard believers in Gravik that we thought them to be, because clearly they want to stay alive. So maybe that's why Rosa is more inclined to help Sonya, whereas Mr. Dalton just took a bullet to the head because he would die for Gravik before letting any secrets get loose. So
yeah, and I mean, you even see, clearly he's that's not actually his wife. He doesn't actually really care. They're more like work partners, I guess, if anything, or they're agents that work together. I will say though, as much as yes, I absolutely love her. I don't know if I'd want her to necessarily replace Nick Fury, but I will say if we got a Nick Fury and Sonya Fallsworth team up against Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, whoo, that would be imagine all three of them chewing up a scene together would be so cool. And I really hope it happens. I hope that Sonya maybe becomes more the European Nick Fury, anything that has to happen
someone
in
he's
Europe.
working with in Europe.
Yeah. So he can, I think he's going to, after this series, if he doesn't die, he's going to want to take it a little bit easier on himself maybe. And so maybe she starts to fill in a little bit of that role. But yeah, what a fantastic interaction. I love how she mentioned the line of, I can be whoever you want to be. And I would just say this, if I was in the MCU, I'd want her to be my bestie for sure. I think she'd protect me quite a bit. But I think this moment, I think it's funny because Disney, you're not used to blood and this level of violence, I think personally, even within the MCU. But I think this is Disney getting away with it because it's purple blood, but also maybe starting to set up audiences for what's to come in Deadpool. Because I'm sure Deadpool is not going to hold back. And if that gets popped onto the Disney Plus, after it's been out in the theaters and they put it onto the streaming service, if it's in the same category as all these other Disney Plus shows, I think they're trying to get audiences aware of the fact that, hey, we're going to have, more, your kids might not be able to watch this. Yeah. But we then join Gaia as she meets with Vara and requests her help to bury her father. More on that in a moment, because we quickly cut to Rava informing President Ritson about the Skrulls' compound in Russia. And he requests that the U.S. bomb the facility. And Ritson reminds Rhodey that a strike on Russian soil would mean World War III. As this is happening, Fury receives a phone call from Gravik updating him on the plan, demanding he bring him the harvest in person and telling him to bring some iodide pills. Do you know what iodide pills are, Darcy?
All I know is that it's used for purifying water. As far as I'm aware, I believe that's what it's used for.
I'm not sure. Anyways, he says the reactor room can be a touch aggressive, so I was wondering if it had something to do with for your head or something. I don't know. But as Fury boards the plane, this is crazy. He's met by none other than Rick Mason, who's not surprised by the fact that Fury currently has an Interpol red notice out for him. So, do you think that there's more? This is now the second time, Darcy, that we've gotten a reference to Black Widow, a pretty big reference to Black Widow with a full-ass character showing up. Do you think there's more than meets the eye to all these Black Widow references in this series?
I mean, honestly, kind of giving credence to Kevin's amazing theory, which I would love. I mean, as soon as Mason popped on, I'm just like, I know him from somewhere. What do I know him from? It's MCU related. What was he? And it took me a while to be like, oh, he was the tech guy in Black Widow who got her where she needed to go type thing. I loved it.
Yeah.
It's a fun return.
Yeah.
And again, just made me think back to Kevin's theory. And it's like, oh, maybe it is true.
I'm just saying, dude.
On the topic of Ritson and Rhodey's conversation there, or Rob's
sure. Yeah.
Conversation, you could tell Ritson doesn't really trust Rhodey, because when Rhodey's just like, I'd rather another war before facing these things or whatever. And it's like, Ritson has worked with Rhodey before. Rhodey is always going the diplomacy route before pulling out the guns.
Yes.
That's kind of his thing. He has been through war and doesn't want to fight unless it's absolutely necessary. So to have this guy just being like, bomb them, it's like, that's not Rhodey's way of thinking. So no. I feel like Ritson's onto them.
I think you're absolutely right, Darcy, and I think that is going to lead to the end of Ritson in the next episode. I think they have to address how, because we're getting a Harrison Ford president, in Thunderbolts, or not even in Thunderbolts, in Captain America. What is it called? Is it Brave New World now? I think.
It's not New World Order anymore.
No, yeah. So Brave New World, I think, is the new title, right? So they've got to explain a reason as to how Ritson, unless he just isn't put back in office and that there's a timeline difference here or something like that. Maybe. I think to what you were saying though, I think maybe his speculation is what gets him killed and is what gets us ultimately to Harrison Ford in office. Which I think it would just be great in our real world. But no, I really enjoy O.T. Fagbenley's character in Black Widow. So it was nice to see him show up again here, and it makes a lot of sense for him to be connected to Fury in this way. I think this is a better. This is a better way, much like the flashbacks in the previous episodes, that the show ties itself into the MCU at large. I think the plan with Gravik and the DNA harvesting stuff, it's fun, and we're going to geek out about it and talk about it and speculate. But sometimes I feel like, and I know this isn't like a new concept. I think a lot of people that have had criticisms over the MCU, for much longer time than I have with this show, or with the back half of the show, would tell you that Marvel is getting in its own way a lot of times by really forcing the connected universe stuff on their series. And I think, there are times for that, and there are times to scale that back. And I think this show could have benefited a little bit more from really kind of focusing in and sort of scaling back. And again, maybe it would have worked better with an extra 40 minutes of this show. Maybe they would have had a way to sort of massage it out a little bit more so it doesn't feel like it's forced. But I'm not feeling it. I don't know. I will say though, Boston Red Sox hat, I get it. Maybe Mason is just a Boston Red Sox fan, but dude, it's a hat with a B on it. Okay? Black Widow. Okay? Black Widow. The hat is black and red. I'm just saying, like, either Marvel wants us to remember that Black Widow, that movie even happened because of Thunderbolts coming up, and, Yelena and Red Guardian are going to be there, and they're like, remember, this is a character that existed, and this is a thing that existed. But yeah, maybe Kevin's right. Maybe Natasha Romanoff is still alive. I don't know. Okay, we finally get to see Gaia mourning her father, and Vara reminds her that Talos, wasn't much for pageantry. As an offering, Gaia places down Soren's wedding ring as Vara recants a skull. I keep saying skulls. A Skrull prayer. Shout out to both actresses here for speaking the Skrull language so well. It reminded me a lot of, especially when Emilia Clarke. Dothraki, right? It sounds very Dothraki. So she's got a lot of experience with other languages in Game of Thrones. But We then see that she gets into a bit of at first it's a nice conversation, and then it turns into like a heated conversation with Vara about her relationship with Fury, and if Fury would ever get lost, watching Vara in her own skin. And Vara takes really great offense to this comment. But as they move on in the conversation, a bullet explodes the teapot on the table, and the two Skrull women go into action mode, rocking backpacks filled with guns. And after a pretty violent fight, they manage to fend off their attackers. So I think, Darcy, this was a much, much improved action sequence. What did you think of Gaia and Vara's conversation, and also this violent, well choreographed action sequence?
I mean, the conversation was interesting. I do think it was weird how offended Priscilla got at the mention of if Nick ever stared at her in her own skin. And it's like, I feel like that'd be an easy question to answer if you're trying to defend the man you love, and he did. You think she would say yes, no problem, or at least just be like, no, but I don't want him to make him uncomfortable because I love him too much, something along those lines.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, I think though it's. I think there's a controversy amongst the Skrulls that this series is painting for us of how much of themselves should they have to sacrifice in order to live on Earth. And I think with Gaia being younger, you can see she has a more progressive outlook and doesn't believe that they should have to change, right? That's the whole reason she got upset with her dad earlier. And so for her to make this comment, I think made sense. And I think it's a really interesting conversation. And I think the reason Vara reacted that way and is so sensitive to that idea, I think it's because she thinks that Gaia is right. She's afraid to admit that Gaia is right, and what would that mean for any semblance of a relationship going forward with Nick?
Mm-hmm. Well, I also was thinking back to the fact that she said she got this shell from someone who was passing away and was promising to love and everything like that. I was wondering if that was attached to her. How connected she is with the character of Priscilla, or the person who was Priscilla before her. I'm wondering if that played into it at all.
Totally.
Going on to the action, though, it was incredible, and it makes sense. These were people who were working with Fury to be his spies, and you'd think they would have training capable to handle themselves in any situation. So it was really neat to see them bust out the stuff. And again, it's believable. It's Fury's wife. Of course, she's going to have guns in her laboratory with all her botany stuff around her. It's like, and guns. Just in case. You never know.
So cool. I mean, I think it reminded me a lot of it's like your super spy house. Like, it did remind me of the parents in Black Widow, right? Like of Red Guardian and I can't remember Natasha's mom's name. I'm sorry. But I think, for me, I almost certainly crapped my pants with that jump scare. Did that hit you, the bullet? Like, did you get it, or it didn't phase you?
I didn't get me. I guess not. I don't know. It was just like, I was expecting something to happen because this conversation is going on too long. We know people are after Vara, and she was waiting for someone to show up. So it's only a matter of time.
I was not. This was, for me, it felt like it was out of nowhere. Kudos to the sound design. The action was great. I think
it was awesome.
Pretty brutal kills too. Like some really, and again,
especially the aftermath when they're just sitting there and there was just the guy dangling in the window.
Yeah, and there's the blood splatter, again, kind of spurting out of them. And again, you look for a second, it looks red, but if you look closely, it is purple.
It's purple. Yeah.
So okay, Disney, but no, the shots to the stomach and the overall choreography. I love the back to back. Backpack shot of their, it's kind of circling around these two badass women just working together just to go, unleash on these attackers was great.
It was great.
Great stuff. Good job on the action in this sequence. So then we see Fury using a widow's veil. Another reference to Black Widow. And he's sneaking through customs as a man named Johannes Karhonen. After, I don't know if that was the right accent, after making it into the car with Sonya, she asks him why only the widow's, why can the widow's veil only change his face? And he mentions that it's the old version, but there's a newer version. There's a new iPhone coming out that can you can actually change someone's entire body. So quick stop there. Again, something about this does play into my Skrull secret. So I'm going to wait to talk about it, but Widow's Veil, Darcy, Come on.
The connection is great. I'm just, when he said there's one that can change her whole body, I made the leap to be like, okay, wait, is this how they bring back Maria Hill?
Okay. Put a pin on that. We'll get
put
to
a pin
it.
on that. Okay, I threw the dart and hit correctly there.
You hit it. Okay. Sonya plays some dope ass tunes, playing "Audacity" by Storm Z, and I'm just like, how could I fall in love with this character anymore?
She's so good.
294 kilometers from the Russian border, Fury explains to Sonya that Rhodes is a Skrull. He also tells her about the harvest and how there were a team of Skrulls that were sent in to collect the harvest after the Battle of Earth, and that the team was led by Gravik. Now, during the conversation, Fury mentions Carol Danvers specifically. Darcy, why do you think he singled out that name in particular?
Because she's Earth's mightiest Avenger. That's kind of the whole thing.
Yeah,
So
she's the strongest one. She's the most
got
powerful.
the quantum force contained within her. No one else can come close to that. Even with the Hulk being as strong as he is, Carol Danvers could put the Hulk to sleep in a second.
Totally.
So
okay. I mean, I think that makes sense. I think she's realistically she's the most powerful.
Plus, she has a
being.
history with the Skrulls, so they would be someone that they'd want to use to kind of bring her down.
That was exactly what I was thinking. Like, I think both Fury and Gravik especially would know of her. Like, she's the reason that he's technically still alive. Mm-hmm. So that would make a lot of sense. That would maybe be the first sort of power that he would think of as, the harvest. But we'll get back to that in a moment here. Finally, Fury and Sonya pause in front of one of his many grave sites, and she asks him why he hasn't called any of his special friends. He says this is a personal fight for him and not the Avengers. He leans down and breathes on his grave, which unveils a secret vial of what we assume is DNA. It's DNA. Fury enters a tomb to grab a new jacket and a fresh eye patch, and then makes a phone call and tells the person on the other end, let's finish this. So, two things here. Whose DNA is in the vial, and who was he talking to on the other end of the phone call?
Before we get into that, though, I gotta say, for building up this whole spy thriller, and this is supposed to be one of his dead drops or a safe house, I don't understand why he needed to keep everything in a separate grave or tomb slot. That was one of the most ridiculous scenes where he's pulling one small thing out, his eye patch, pulling out of a giant grave that
he's got
everything could have fit into one.
And
didn't need this high-tech stuff. It could have just been smash it open with a rock, get your stuff out and go. That was very odd. As the DNA, I don't know if is it one person or is it a lot? Because again, one vial, and I don't understand how easy it would be to be like, crack that, pour it out, now we have XYZ of all this DNA. I don't think it'd be that easy unless it's an MCU. Just explain away where their science is strong enough they can, detect it from a drop of water.
I'm not a
something.
Scientist, so is it okay to put a bunch of DNA together and then extract it?
The thing is, it would be mixed together on a microscopic level. So unless you have some way to sort through it, which maybe they have, because again, they have giant flying suits of armor and AI and all this stuff. So I don't know. Maybe it is possible. That was weird. You got to think it is. Maybe this is Carol Danvers. That's why he brought her up, because
that's what I was thinking.
She's the most powerful, and
the name drop. The name drop happens, and then 2 seconds later, vial of DNA.
Here we go, vial. Yeah,
it's clear though. The bottle was clear. So I was like, is her blood clear? Is it her sweat? Is it a hair?
It must be preserved in something, because you do need to preserve DNA or it'll break down. So that's just during the preservation process, it was rendered mostly clear.
That's probably it. Okay. And then, at the end, he might, it's likely that he's talking to Gravik. I mean, we got the phone call from Gravik earlier in the episode, so maybe he just clicked the button to call
the
redial button to call him back. But I think as to who he's actually talking to falls into my Skrull secret. Darcy, are you ready for my Skrull secret?
Lay it on.
My Skrull. Whisper with me, Darcy.
Nope. You're not going to get me whispering.
Secret.
Nope. That's enough.
Hi, I'm Darcy, and I'm saying secret.
Thanks,
Darcy. So my Skrull secret that I've been waiting this entire episode to dig into here, it all has to do with that woman, that damn woman that keeps showing up in these episodes and says nothing, says no words, but she's constantly around Gravik. So my thoughts are, this episode featured two badass women, and I think this whole series, we talk so much about how much we love Sonya. This whole series is focusing on badass women in Fury, in and around Fury and Talos. I think that because of that, either she's Soren and she's planted herself inside the compound this entire time, and not for good reasons, but for reasons that are maybe morally ambiguous. She's not necessarily a good character by the end of this series, but she's also not a bad one. But she stops Gravik, and in the end, maybe. Or with the Widow's Veil 2.0 just casually thrown into this episode for some reason. Oh yeah, there's another version, by the way, audience. That woman who doesn't speak is none other than Maria Mother Flippin' Hill, because she seems like she might be, the sort of the right hand to Gravik now that Pagan is gone. Mm-hmm. And we've never seen that woman shift into a Skrull. We've never heard her talk. Maybe the Widow's Veil 2.0, they don't got the voice mod working yet on it. I don't know. They can do it in Mission Impossible, but not in the MCU, apparently.
No, they did it in the MCU.
Did they do it in the MCU?
Yeah,
Okay.
Black Widow uses it in the
second
Captain America.
Right. Okay. But I don't know. For my theory, she doesn't talk. She doesn't talk, so maybe she can't talk. And I think the person on the other end, I think Fury is talking to Maria Hill, and she's been there the entire time, and he says, "Let's finish this," because that woman is just getting too much. She's getting so much screen time, and she's so close to Gravik. And if you notice, it was her, Pagan, and Beto in the car with Gravik at the beginning of the episode, and she's the only one that doesn't end up dead.
I mean, that would be an incredible way to bring her back, because even if you think about how she got into the compound with the Widow's Veil, it could be like a flip of a button, and she just looks like a Skrull to get in, and then resumes her form to become one of these soldiers or warriors.
Dude,
that would be incredible. I also like the Soren idea.
Yeah,
both are very tasty secrets.
Thank you.
I will give you that.
Thank you. I really hope I'm onto something with these. I personally, don't get me wrong, shout out to Soren. I'm sure she's a wonderful, or was a wonderful woman, Skrull, but I think I'd prefer it to be Maria.
Well, especially because Kobe Smulders has been a special guest in every episode, so it's like, okay, maybe she is. Just we don't know it. I like it,
and I think it would be really. I think what would be really cool is if we spent, and again, this is where, it's such a simple decision, writers, to get us back on board for the finale of this series, to just give us Maria Hill back. It's the dumbest, if you really think about it from a fan perspective, it's like, at fan service thing, it's like, you know what, we took her away and then we're gonna give her back. Yay! Well,
especially because we're we were all like, don't give us Talos back. That would be too be too much. We just got Gaia. Yeah. Now we're saying, please give us Maria Hill.
Please, but
it'd be cool. I'm on board,
because I think what would be really cool about that is that this entire series we've been looking at Fury and we're like, he's 3 steps behind. He's not usually 3 steps behind. And by the end of it, if he's actually still 3 steps ahead, would just be so freaking dope.
It would be the payoff that would make me feel a lot better about this series. Right? That's for sure.
I hope so. But if it doesn't happen, and the season, I'm not going to hold it against the season finale if that's not the case, and my fan theory doesn't come true. But listen, let's get to our overall impressions of this episode and our final score, which we're going to be rating on a scale of 1 to 5. Fresh eye patches. Darcy, go ahead.
So I did enjoy this episode more than last week's. That's not saying much though, because last week had some of the sloppiest writing and decision choices of the series so far. Yep. And this is a slight improvement. Maybe that's just because I love Sonya so much that we got so much of her in this episode, and her interacting with Nick Moore just brings a smile to my face. And like I said, I want to see more of her. That's for sure. The action was great. Again, some of the Gravik stuff, that's where they're losing me, is that they've kind of lost the path that they originally set out with this character. And now they'll explain that in the last one, where it is just all about power for him, and he kind of forgot what he was fighting for once he got a taste of that power. Sure. Again, if they explain that away in a satisfying way, maybe I will come around on his character. But to me, that is the biggest negative of the series so far, is that he started off so strong and seems to have kind of lost everything that made him so so scary and imposing of a threat. Now he is just your typical MCU baddie, and it's just it's a bit disappointing. So on that regard, I'll be giving this one a 3.5 out of 5 fresh eye patches.
I'm right there with you. Yeah, I think this was an improvement for sure. I think the flow of this episode worked a little bit better. The action sequences, obviously, we keep bringing that up. I think two badass characters getting their time to shine in an action capacity was awesome. And obviously we knew they would have the skills for it, but it was great to just see them flex those muscles. I think the addition of Rick Mason in the show for just that brief little moment was a cool nod to the greater MCU, and I think it's a reminder that character still exists. If it's purposeful or not, hopefully we'll find out someday. But I thought the interactions between Fury and Rava, while brief this episode, were still great. And then, like you were saying, any moment with Sonya Fallsworth on screen, Olivia Colman is so outstanding, and I was so happy to see her featured more in this episode. So I think that brought up a lot for me. I think all that being said, the narrative here being clearly affected by reshoots or restructuring of this series, I think the fact that Talos's body was wrapped up clearly meant that the funeral scene was something that maybe they weren't actually planning on having it like that. Like, obviously Ben Mendelsohn's not on that table, or at least I don't think he would be. So I think it's just one of those things where I don't know. I feel like getting to see Gaia at least mourn her dad was good, but I still felt like the way they sort of cut a lot of that out felt really sloppy. They sort of speed tracked Fury learning of how Gaia survived. I thought that was pretty weak, and I think I felt like it was just it's a clearer look as to why this show is so messy in its back half. Again, still better than last week. I really hope they do something crazy for the finale, whether it's my theory or not. Like, just something like big. This series needs to just do something big, because I think the first two episodes really rocked my world, and I was like, I'm ready, and then they just sort of really just fell short in these past few. So if they can just give us something that's even at a 4 or a 4.5 would be amazing, but we'll have to wait and see. So 3.5 out of 5 fresh eye patches. Sorry for whoever gets the half eye patch. That's not going to do much for you.
Just the strap. No patch.
Yeah, just like a little, glue the sides to your eye. I don't know. All right, that is it for this week's episode of Watch Club for Marvel's Secret Invasion. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts, if you haven't already. And if you want to write into the show with your thoughts or your predictions on the shows we cover in Watch Club, well, let me just put on this widow's veil and become Darcy, to let you know how you can reach us.
Okay, hold on. Is it the Widow's Veil that does the voice, or does
it's the one that does the voice? It's the
Okay.
This is the third version of it. It's in beta testing or beta testing.
Okay, well, if they want to write into us, they can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. Or if that's too much, you said it earlier, but getting a plastic bag crammed over your face and strangled from behind, you can reach out to us on Twitter at Geekcentric YT, or on Instagram at We Are Geekcentric. And we're also on Threads, We Are Geekcentric, and join us on Discord. We like talking about this show, so keep it alive over there. Keep the conversation alive over there.
Okay, so I would thank you, Darcy, but that was all me.
You even got my stumbles in
right?
There,
Pretty good.
Jeez,
okay, I've been practicing. I've been editing all these episodes, so I've been listening to your voice quite a bit. Keep in mind, we have a ton of other episodes covering the latest and greatest shows and movies out now, including our recent spoiler-free reviews for Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer, The Bear Season 2, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, The After Party Season 2, Netflix's Nimona, and Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Plus, we have a ton of great episodes, interviews. Listen, it's getting late. A ton of great interviews out now, like our most recent interview with the cast and showrunner for Foundation, now in its second season on Apple TV+. I had a really great time chatting with showrunner David S. Goyer, cast members Leah Harvey, Cassian Bilton, Kulvinder Gear, Laura Byrne, and yes, frickin' Lee Pace. For you Marvel fans out there, Ronan the Destroyer. So if you're a fan of sci-fi, I highly recommend you check out the show and these interviews. And if you can't get enough of this show and Gravik himself, we do have an interview with Kingsley Ben-Adir and director of the show, Ali Selim. So you can check out all those here on your podcast service of choice or over on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric. The hot geek summer is getting even hotter. So join us in our Discord, because we're going to want to talk about this finale. We're going to want to talk about all this stuff. And, We've got some coverage coming up very soon of some, Haunted Mansion. We got the Turtles are coming back to theaters with Mutant Mayhem, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. We have a giveaway for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, by the way, going on right now on our Twitter. You can catch the tail end of that giveaway because I think it ends on the 25th. So get in there quick on our Twitter, on our Instagram, if you want a chance to see it early and you live in one of the cities in that you'll see in that post. Cool. But until then, stay tuned to find out what's next for us. Darcy, thank you so much for joining me for this watch club. And as we say, loud and proud, Darcy.
No,
loud and proud.
I'll say it.
Scroll you later. Yeah.